Strengthening Families monthly networking webinar. Today we are focused on opportunities in the Preschool Development Grant. And I know that's a fast developing opportunity that everyone is figuring out how to respond to in their states. So this is pretty timely. That also means that we don't have all the time planned out for presentations today because we want to be sure to have time for discussion. So I hope that those of you who are joining us will be ready to jump in with your thoughts and what you're doing in your state. So for today, I'll give some brief updates from the Center for the Study of Social Policy. We don't have updates from our partners at the National Alliance of Children's Trust and Prevention Funds today, so we'll get right into our topic and touch on a few different ways that we see opportunities to take advantage of this preschool development grant opportunity. So we'll get into that in a few minutes. I'll just share a couple of updates first from CSSP. So a little bit about these webinars. If you don't usually join, just so you know, we do this the second Thursday of every month, and it is an open invitation to anyone who's using Strengthening Families, whether that's at the program level or coordinating efforts for a community or an agency or a state. We rotate through different topics based on interesting work that's going on. So some months it'll be very relevant to your work, some months it might not be, and you're welcome to join us when it works and when you're interested, and share the invitation with others who might be interested in your state, depending on the topic each month. We always record the webinars and post that recording and the materials on the site that's listed here, which is a Google site maintained by our partners at the Alliance, which actually at this point is a great archive of years of these webinars. So sometime if you're looking for learning a little bit more about some way that someone's implementing Strengthening Families, strolling through that archive could be a good way to find some inspiration. As I said, we do this the second Thursday of each month at this time. And on November 8th, we'll be learning about the new Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Framework for Head Start and Child Care and for Early Childhood Systems. Looking forward to that. And then in December, we're going to focus on supporting military families to build protective factors, and some really great work that 0 to 3 and the Child Traumatic Stress Academy have been working on. And we'll continue this second Thursday of the month into the new year, and we'll announce those topics as they get closer. Please let me know if there's a topic that you would like to present on or a topic you're really interested in hearing about. Could be anything from a specific piece of work that's been done to a broad question you have that we could get a panel together and have multiple people share their answers. So whatever would be helpful to you as you think about how you're implementing Strengthening Families, let me know, and we will see if we can get a webinar onto the schedule. So one update I want to share, I hope many of you are aware that the Together for Families conference is next week. This is the first time this conference has been offered. It's a partnership between us at CSSP and the National Family Support Network, along with the Greater Cleveland Family Strengthening Network. And this is a conference that will weave together content about strengthening families, about the standards of quality for family support programs, and about the family support field in general. So this is the first time we're doing it. If you're going to be there, please come up and say hi. I always love meeting people who participate in these webinars, even if I've never met you in person before. It's fun to know how you're using Strengthening Families. And if you're not making it this year, we'll share some highlights from it afterwards and hope that you'll be able to join us when we do this again in the future. So just wanted to share that that is coming up, and we're excited to see a lot of people from around the country who are part of this network. I also wanted to make sure you're aware that the Children's Bureau is seeking nominations for their Champion Awards. They have awards in these 5 categories that you can see on your screen. And you can nominate a person, a group, an organization, an agency. It's really loose what sort of entity can receive these awards. It just can't be a federal agency or a federal contractor. And they are accepting nominations until November 12th. So think about who you think is really making a difference for kids and is really a champion for children in one of these ways, and put in a nomination if you can. Those awards will be given at the National Conference on Child Abuse and Neglect, which will be next April in Washington, D.C. And another federal development, the Department for Homeland Security just put out a proposed rule change to this rule about public charge, and this is an issue that if you don't work directly in immigration, you may not be familiar with, but It's basically tightening the rules for who can be given legal immigration status based on whether they would ever be a public charge, meaning whether they would need government support and financial support, that is. This is a very challenging change to the rules that would effectively eliminate a lot of people of color from immigrating to the United States. It's pretty blatant in that way, and so we are encouraging anyone who has an opinion about this to express it. The Homeland Security Department is accepting public comment about this rule change through December 10th. We had a blog post about it yesterday, and we've got an infographic which you can see a snippet of on the page here or on your screen. And 0 to 3 has also put together some really good resources, social media tweets that you can send out and things like that, and some guidelines for how to put in those public comments. So I really encourage you to dig into this. I know those links on to our pages are long there. You can just go to cssp.org and up in the corner click under media and go to blog, and from there you can find this really easily. So I encourage you to look into it. If you support immigrant families, if you're just concerned about immigration in our country, consider making a public comment. Okay, those are all the announcements that I wanted to share. And I'm noticing somehow that a lot of the logos fell off of these slides. I hope that's not true throughout, that we're not missing images. I'm not sure what to do about it, so we're going to keep going. I'm going to hand off to my colleague Anna Lovejoy, who is also a senior associate at the Center for the Study of Social Policy. And I would consider her our federal early childhood policy maven. I'm very glad that she has put together some issue briefs and is going to talk today about these opportunities in the Preschool Development Grant. I will just also point out before Anna gets started that if you look on the side of your screen on the webinar panel, there are handouts. If you expand that, you can download the 2 issue briefs that Anna's going to be talking about. And those are things you can share widely with anyone else in your network or with the people responsible for the Preschool Development Grant in your state. And they will be up on our website soon, but I don't believe they are yet. So you are getting these hot off the press. All right, Anna, can I ask you to go ahead and share some of your wisdom about these grants and the opportunities within them?
I will do my best. Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to share news about this new opportunity, almost unheard of in this day and age to have additional resources for early childhood system building, but here we are. For those of you who have not heard about this or have not had time to read through the extensive federal opportunity announcement, just really briefly, this is an offering coming out of the Administration for Children and Families in the Office of Child Care. It's an opportunity for states and territories to develop, update, or implement a strategic plan that promotes collaboration and coordination among existing programs of early care and education in a mixed delivery system. And what that means is early care and education settings including center-based care, family child care, informal care settings as well, Head Start, publicly funded preschool, either in public schools or in community settings, and other similar types of early care and education opportunities. So it's, for the most part, focused on early care and education settings, but the exciting news is that it sort of couches that within the broader context of an early childhood system, and I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. The one thing I wanted to mention before I go into the exact purpose is that this preschool development grant opportunity is distinctly different from the previous offerings under the same title, the Preschool Development Grant. The previous ones were actually grants to fund slots for 4-year-old children, low-income children, to attend preschool programs in states. And so this Birth to 5 initiative is different because it's really all about system building, and it is not intended to fund slots for preschool. So if that's what you were hoping to hear, I'm sorry, but you'll have to find another opportunity for additional slot funding. But for those of us who've been working, in early childhood systems building for a long time, this, I think, opportunity is really sort of unprecedented and very exciting. So the purpose of the grants are to support states to either conduct a new or enhance existing birth to 5 needs assessments to inform a strategic plan for building a birth to 5 system that is comprehensive, collaborating, and coordinating across all of the early care and education settings that I just described, but also that is aligned and collaborating and coordinating with other supports that families with young children need, and that includes home visiting, early intervention, and Part B preschool for children with disabilities, other family support services, and children's health. So again, they're defining it fairly broadly. The next purpose is to help states to align and maximize existing resources that they're already using to support programs and services for young children, including those from federal sources, state, community sources, and also private funding from foundations and other things. The fourth purpose is to encourage partnerships at all levels and across programs. So across all early care and education programs, between Head Start and state-funded pre-K and child care settings, but also between state and community levels and among public agencies and community partners and other stakeholders. And then the fifth, is to help to maximize parental choice and knowledge about their early care and education options, about what quality looks like and where they can find it, and also to support parents in their role as their children's first teachers and promoting their knowledge of child development. So it's pretty broad and sweeping. We can go to the next slide, Kaylin. Thank you. So again, it has a broad definition of what a birth to 5 system includes, and that, again, early care and education, health, mental health, and family support programs. The way that they define the system, the encouraging news for those who are interested in promoting protective factors and using strengthening families as mechanisms to do that, are that the language aligns to some of the protective factors like parental knowledge of child development and also social and emotional competence of children. So there are a couple of hooks in there that you may want to check out in the federal opportunity announcement. And then also, again, it has a strong emphasis on partnerships, collaboration, and coordination. We can go to the next slide. So we at CSSP, being CSSP, we looked at this, the FOA, as we call it, for opportunities to both advance equity and promote protective factors. We see the two as very interrelated. And so one of the two resources that Kaylin mentioned and that are available on the right-hand side of your screen is specifically calls out what we found as opportunities for promoting equity and building protective factors sort of broadly. And then the second resource we have is very more specific guidance about how states can use the FOA as an opportunity to either enhance or pursue some new strategies around strengthening families. So we definitely encourage you to check those resources out. I'm just going to go quickly through a few of and highlight a few of the opportunities and recommendations. There are more details in the slides, which I'm sure you'll be able to access after the webinar. but also, encourage you to check out those resources if you're interested. We're really hoping that they're helpful in informing states' applications. So some of the opportunities for equity that we found, we definitely see an opportunity for equity to be stated as an explicit goal in your state's vision statement and the needs assessment that you would be planning to conduct through this. It's a one-year planning grant. And we also, found opportunities to incorporate an emphasis on protective factors into your definition of quality early care and education. You can go to the next slide, Caitlin. There are also opportunities for weaving in strategies to invite parent leaders into the planning and implementation process for this grant itself. Also for focusing on suspension and expulsion of young children from early care and education settings as a goal, which, as we know, is a really important issue that relates to equity, because so many young children of color, particularly young boys of color, are disproportionately suspended and expelled from care settings. And then the brief that I described also has several strategies for engaging and informing families and building a diverse, high-quality workforce that you may want to check out. Let's go to the next slide. Specific opportunities for strengthening families. As you know, the protective factors framework is really a logic model for how we can, through the decisions and opportunities that we create at the state agency level, and through partnerships with parents and other stakeholders, how we can impact what happens on the ground in programs that help families to build protective factors. So one of the requirements of this particular preschool development grant application is to develop a logic model that explains or identifies the child and family level outcomes that you hope to achieve through full implementation of your vision for a coordinated early childhood system, and then map backwards to explain how the activities you're proposing and the resources and funding that you would like to commit to those, how they will help you to achieve those. So we would like to offer the protective factors framework as a framework that you could use and incorporate into your logic model for your application. And also, we always make this point, and I'm sure you're all very well aware of, strengthening families is helpful in serving as a platform for coordination across diverse child and family serving systems, because of the fact that it's easy to recognize sort of the role that individual agencies and programs play and contribute in contributing to achieving the protective factors or those outcomes for families. So we hope that's somewhat helpful. Again, there's more explicit information about what's in the FOA and how you might be able to use that as an opportunity in the resource that's on the right-hand side. We can go to the next slide. And there's, again, the picture of the logic model for those of you who haven't seen it in a while. We can go to the next slide. And again, this is showing the logic model at the program level, how the everyday actions that happen between providers and families, lead to protective factors that lead to the family results that we want. Okay, next slide. And of course, there's the famous flower diagram about how so many different agencies and systems find their place in the protective factors framework and can connect to each other as well. So I just wanted to share that briefly as well. We can go to the next slide. There are specific activities that are required in states' applications speak to. So a couple of points I want to make overall about the FOA is that it's really a proposal for a plan to plan, and then assuming that a state that is awarded the grant is able to get through that planning process, then if there is time at the end of the 1-year grant to begin implementation, then there are some opportunities to speak to that in your application. But really it's all about planning to plan and then implementing your planning process. The other point I want to mention, and then I'll say a little bit more about a couple of activities, and then I think my time is probably up, is that this, although it's technically a competitive grant, there's quite a bit of money on the table, and the Administration for Children and Families has indicated that they are hoping to award up to 40 grants based on the amount of money that they have and what they hope to see from state applications. So as long as states meet the criteria and requirements that are spelled out in the FOA, they stand a really good shot at receiving the support that they hope to receive. So we hope that especially since timing is a little bit short in terms of getting applications created and turned in, that states will not feel quite as panicked probably as they did under, for example, the Race to the Top, which was much higher stakes and fewer awards granted. So I think it's, as long as you put in a thoughtful application, there's a good chance that your state will be able to get it. So specifically in one of the activities, there are a couple of activities that I think really speak to protective factors and strengthen families. One relates to providing timely, accurate information to families. Another is engaging families in their children's development. A third is empowering parents and programs to facilitate smooth transitions. And a fourth is offering parent education initiatives to particular groups of parents. So if we go to the next slide, I just wanted to highlight a couple of things that we know are already going on out in states and communities. So if you're already doing it, this is a chance to plan how you can do more of it, perhaps, or connect and build connections to initiatives that you're already undertaking, or think about doing some strategic planning around whether you might want to implement something new. So one opportunity are, of course, the cafe-style conversations, the parent cafes, the community cafes, and some of the other models that we know are being used out there have been found to be very effective in, both supporting parent leadership and voice, but also in helping families to, identify and strengthen their own protective factors, and also to inform providers about what their desires are for their children and what their own family strengths and needs are. So that, I think, definitely in Activity 3 there is a space to speak to that, as well as the FOA also speaks to parent education programs that are specifically targeted to a couple of different populations, including fathers and English language learners and a few other groups. And also, of course, that the idea of system building and connecting parents to information that they may need. And so just a reminder that there are several both parenting education models, but also models like Help Me Grow that are aligned to the protective factors, and have long been part of the Strengthening Families National Partners and our network. But you might want to think about how you can use this as an opportunity to explore what you might be able to do with those. So just wanted to point that out. We can go to the next slide. And then activities 4 and 5 speak to sharing best practices among early childhood care and education programs and providers, providing systematic technical assistance from the state level to local communities and community-based organizations, and continuing efforts to improve early parent education quality that in particular are aligned with what a state has already proposed in its Child Care and Development Block Grant state plan, and continuing Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge investments. So to the extent that your state has already incorporated strengthening families into any of those, this again is an opportunity to highlight that, and also think about what more you can be doing, and also thinking about using the tools like the Strengthening Families online evaluation portal and other things that can be helpful in sharing best practices. Next slide. And then finally, there is states are required to describe how they're going to implement or develop an evaluation plan, which would identify their priority populations for focusing on, either in terms of populations or geographic areas, identifying their short, long-term child family program and service implementation outcomes, their existing data systems, potential new data sources, and strategies for using and reporting findings to inform continuous learning and improvement efforts. So if we go to the next slide, I just wanted to remind everybody about some of the existing resources that are out there that may help you speak to those requirements in your plan. So of course the program self-assessments, the fact that we have them not only for center-based and family child care, but also for home visiting and community-based programs, brings a level of coherence and consistency to your state system. Of course, there's the Strengthening Families Evaluation Portal and the capabilities that entails to support aggregated data analysis and state-level planning across programs. Also, of course, the online training from the Alliance related to the protective factors. It's free, it's available, it's something that you can easily weave into what your state could be planning to do. And of course, the parents' assessment of the protective factors, which measures is a self-reported measurement by parents of the degree to which they see the protective factors at work in their lives. Of course, the protective factors survey from our friends at Friends, and of course, you can also write to your participation in the Strengthening Families National Network as a resource for, peer sharing and receiving additional implementation support. At CSSP, we, are hopeful that we will be able to continue to support strengthening families generally, and perhaps this is an opportunity for us to potentially get some additional resources to actually help states implement this particular opportunity as well. So, fingers crossed. We don't know if that will come about, but it's always possible. So, I think, is that my last? Oh no, that's just very, very briefly. I also wanted to mention, and full disclaimer, CSSP is also a national partner on the National Center on Parent, Family, and Community Engagement. And if you're not already familiar with the Head Start Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Framework, just a reminder that it is, like the Protective Factors Framework, also a logic model, and also speaks to family outcomes that lead to child outcomes, and all of these are very closely aligned to the protective factors as well. Many some states are already using this or some combination of it, and Strengthening Families or other frameworks to speak to family engagement in their state systems. If we go to the next slide, there is a new, and we're actually going to be talking about this next month, a new framework that the National Center has come out with that puts that Head Start framework for the program level within the context of a state system, and so it points out the different levers, if you will, for policies and systems, leadership and governance, professional and workforce development, and others that can help to drive the changes on the ground in programs that we want to see. So there's a link to that there, the document that sort of provides the framework and the narrative around it. If you want to check that out, it's available. And again, we'll be talking more about that framework and how it aligns and aligns with strengthening families and how states can make sense of using the two next month. So come back if you're interested in that. If we go to the next slide. There are two resources that I wanted to point out that regardless of whatever family engagement framework your state may be using or wants to weave into its preschool development grant application, there are some additional resources from the National Center that I think may be very useful in your planning efforts. Particularly around the family engagement pieces. One is a new set of relationship-based competencies to support family engagement. There are several sets of them that speak to different roles in the early childhood field. So one is for teachers and child care providers. One is for family service professionals. So that's like your family support workers in Head Start or in family support centers, and also a set for home visitors. So you may want to check those out. They may be useful in informing state workforce competencies and bringing some consistency to the different roles in the field in terms of family engagement. And then if we go to the next slide, the Preschool Development Grant also speaks to communicating and informing parents about their choices for child care and early care and education. There are a couple of resources that are geared to states for speaking to the requirements in the Child Care and Development Block Grant related to consumer education, but these resources take it a step farther to really talk about consumer engagement and making, creating sort of two-way communication channels, and also speaking to parents in ways that are family-friendly, strengths-based, and really, hope to do a better job of engaging parents in, learning more and finding more information about what's available in their communities to help them in their role. So to the extent those are available or helpful, I wanted to point out that they are available. So I think that's it for my presentation. I hope I haven't gone on too long, but we hope this is all helpful, and we wish states good luck in developing their applications. And of course, feel free to reach out to Kaylin and to me if you have questions or want to bounce some ideas off of us for what you're putting into your application or anything like that. They are due in early November, so states, I'm sure, are just working very hard at them right now. So thanks for taking the time to be here today to hear what we have to say. Thanks, Kaylin.
Thank you so much, Anna. I think that was a really helpful overview, and you didn't take too long at all. And I hope people are downloading those issue briefs so you can really dig in on particular points that Anna made that seem like they would resonate for your state's application. Next, we're going to hear from a couple of our partners who are also supporting folks in ways to take advantage of this opportunity. So first, we're going to hear from, oh boy, I'm sorry that there's extra graphics on this slide. Remember earlier I said some graphics were missing? They all popped up here. So I apologize for that. Something happened. Prashant Rajbadaya is with us from the Mosaic Network, and he's going to talk about their tools and how there's opportunities to support continuous quality improvement. And I hope you can ignore the extra graphics on here. Sorry about that, Prashant.
No worries, Kaylin. That's all good. Yes,
all right,
it's all good.
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Anna. And if it's okay with you, Kaylin, if you can go to slide number 21, where Anna was talking about evaluation plan. I think it will give a good context to all the attendees here. So, as you all know, you must have heard from us in this webinar. I'm from Mosaic Network, but we are truly here in a partnership with a lot of entities, and especially Strengthening Families and CSSP. And in the last 3 years, we've been doing some really great innovations and demonstration projects and getting great results out of how do you use Strengthening Families for evaluations and CQI, continuous quality improvement. And that gets me to this slide. So as Anna was talking about submitting proposals for block grant, evaluation plan is an integral part of it. And the approach that we have taken recently, and the one that I will be talking about for a few minutes, is what if evaluation plan is not an afterthought, right? Every time we do our large multi-site, multi-year projects, we always have service delivery models and frameworks, and then there's evaluation. So with the context that all these things are very important and critical, we are strong believers in data, insights, evaluation. So what if evaluation itself can become the centerpiece of how do we do continuous quality improvement? And in the context of the block grant, and Kaylin, you can go back to my slide now, thank you. And in the context of the block grant, if you have to work on the evaluation plans anyways, let's do a great job with evaluation plan. And how about we write an evaluation plan and enable it with technology and results and reports such that we can support continuous quality improvement in real time, right? So that's sort of the motivation that we started with, and that's what this is, CQIHub.com. It's a consolidation of all the amazing work that we've been doing with all our public partners, of course, CSSP, University of California, Santa Barbara, Western Michigan University has joined recently, Mosaic, and several others on using evaluation data around parent engagement and other strategies to really enable cross-sector and cross-strategy CQI. And so as we looked at this problem, the challenges that we faced was, and as you all can say, we all have so much data, but we do not have timely insights. And so the solution we are looking at is coming back to evaluation. Can we think of evaluation in a way so that it can also meet standards, the higher standards that grants like these require? And yes, we can do so, but then also make it cost effective such that it can work at all levels. So that how nice it will be if we can support continuous quality improvement at the parent level before the child leaves the school year and the classroom, right? Such that it's incremental, so we can see incremental progress in timely manner, maybe even quarterly, if not sooner. Can we make it sustainable and scalable, because evaluations and data systems can all be expensive to do. So can we make it a cost-effective, sustainable, and scalable? So when you take all of these motivations, challenges, and solutions in place, that's where we come to CQIHub.com. So please go to this website and register if you're more interested in this methodology and this approach. But if anyone is interested in using it in their block grant or otherwise, the guiding principles are, how can we leverage existing data investments? All of us have invested a lot in data systems and evaluation and technology and reports. So how can we leverage all of those investments to solve our need for continuous quality improvement as well as a sustainable evaluation? So that's sort of the overarching goal. And we have some great successes based on this, through which you can, through minimal investments and maximum outcomes, support parent engagement, support school readiness, support other strategies in a cross-sector initiative, and still be able to attain continuous quality improvement as well as attain all the other goals that block grant has provided. So in a nutshell, have one stone to sort of hit multiple targets, if you will, and we believe this approach can do so. So please join us. Please go to this website, CQIHub.com. Right now, this particular website is bare bones, but please do register if you're interested, or reach out to Kaylin and or Anna. We've been partnering on this for several years now, and we hope you see value in how a community of hub of data, results, and insights across multiple programs, when it is designed to demonstrate and improve the impact of multi-site initiatives, can also help us support sustainable, lean, agile, continuous quality improvement at parent, family, program, county, region, and state level. So yeah, so please go to this website and register if you're interested, or reach out to one of our partners. Thank you, Kaylin.
Thank you, Prashant. And I was able to get those extra logos out of the way so you can actually read the website there, cqihub.com. And thank you for sharing that. We're going to hear next from one more partner, Andrew Russo from the National Family Support Network. Let me multitask here and unmute Andrew at the same time as I pull up a slide. Andrew, it's not letting me unmute you. That's very unfortunate. Let's see. It says you are self-muted. Andrew, if you're able to unmute on your screen, there you go.
Okay. Hello.
We can hear you. Perfect.
Okay, great. Sorry for the technical difficulties, and thank you very much to Kaylin for the opportunity to connect with you all today. Also talking about this unique grant opportunity that we're really excited about, and I'll be brief in terms of talking about how the National Family Support Network has been tracking and looking at this and what opportunities may be. So when the grant was originally being thought about by the Office of Child Care, we were glad to connect with them and talk about family resource centers, which was something that they were really intrigued by as they were familiar with family resource centers and their value. There are more than 3,000 of them across the country, and yet there's no dedicated federal funding for them. So it's amazing that these centers exist, and also that not only the centers exist, but they've been networked in 27 states in the District of Columbia, and those networks and those centers are the membership of the National Family Support Network. And with that, in terms of thinking about systems of care for supporting 0 to 5 age children, we see this as a unique opportunity where states might think about whether they already have family resource centers, further strengthening the system of care with family resource centers, or developing a network or strengthening a network, as well as for states that don't have family resource centers yet or may not have them organized into a network. This could be part of the planning process as well, as think about it in terms of comprehensively supporting children age 0 to 5, recognizing that there are many different components of that to have a really strong, robust system of care and support for children and their families. And how do family resource centers or family strengthening and support networks potentially fit in that picture? So just to mention that, plant that seed. We've been talking with a number of states as well that have a particular interest in this and leveraging this opportunity for the planning year, which then they would hope to then in years 2, 3, 4, et cetera, then be able to apply for competitive grants to implement those plans, which is where we would see funds coming into the system to support that kind of work. So just to mention, the National Family Support Network is a resource to talk about these things, whether you're interested in talking with us as you apply for a grant and think about different things that you might want to include, referencing family resource centers or networks of family support and strengthening programs, as well as, of course, if you're funded, then we're also a resource to support you as you enter into your planning process. So thank you to Kaylin for the opportunity to put that out there for folks.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. I'm glad that worked out and we were able to solve those technical difficulties. So we've got about 15 minutes left, and I just wanted to ask those of you who are on the call, first of all, of course, if you have any questions, just to clarify things that have been talked about or something that came up for you that you're wondering about. But then also some of these other questions. So just a little bit on the logistics. You can either raise your hand in the webinar panel and I can unmute you, or you can type a question into the question box or chat box and I can read it aloud. So again, if you've got questions, please go ahead and type those in or raise your hand. But also, we're just curious to hear what your state is planning, and if these conversations have already been happening, if anything around families, around strengthening families, protective factors, equity, family resource centers, CQI, how all those issues are coming up, or how one of those issues is coming up in your planning process. We'd love to hear about it, and where you see those opportunities to work these ideas in. So I'm talking for a long time in case people are typing or looking for that button for how to raise your hand. But I hope that you will share your thoughts. And while we wait to hear from someone, I know that Anna and Prashant and Andrew, you've all been part of conversations with people in some states about what they're doing and what they're thinking about. Is there anything you'd like to share of sort of a concrete example from something that a state is doing? You don't need to name the state if you don't want to, but just to say, you know, something concrete that you see potentially happening.
I can speak. This is Prashant. Yeah, one state, they have, they're really invested in universal pre-K. They're really invested in, you know, comprehensive data, and the state has been investing a lot in all these years. So the way they are approaching this is very much in alignment with what I was talking about, and that is how they don't want to recreate those systems, but they want to leverage as much of that data and existing systems that they have through the remnants of Early Childhood Advisory Council from all those years. And then the way they're approaching this is they're looking for specific gaps that they have in data, in strategy, in practice, and just try to fill in those in the minimum way possible. So all the existing investments are leveraged. Politically, it becomes very easy to get a buy-in. So that's one approach that they're taking. And real quick, there's another state that we've been discussing. So they've had a great Head Start project going on across the state. And now the Head Start stakeholders are wondering how they can sort of lead the way to be part of the state system. So those are the two examples that I have from different states.
Thank you. Anna or Andrew, want to jump in?
Yeah, so I had a conversation with a state that is looking at the opportunity to build a state-level infrastructure to support some sort of fledgling local community-level early childhood coalitions that have formed sort of at the grassroots level, but without any support from the state. And they're thinking about how they can sort of use those as, you know, sort of pilots to maybe, you know, create a statewide network, but also thinking about how, and Andrew, you might be interested in this, how they can also hook in their network of family resource centers. So follow up if you want more information on that, Andrew. Yeah, so, and I think, you know, really looking at how they can use this as an opportunity to build on what currently exists and how they can, you know, be a helpful state partner as opposed to, you know, being sort of a dictatorial and telling communities what to do. But so that was one that struck me as kind of interesting. And another, I actually heard an example of someone in Detroit, actually, who shared a really successful parent outreach initiative or engagement initiative that they used to help inform the development of their strategic plan for early childhood in the community. And, you know, it went from proposing to have 3 focus groups to having 200 listening sessions through partnerships that they were able to leverage with other organizations in the community, basically because the parents and community members told them that that's what they wanted. So that was really inspiring, and I think it really ended up informing a really a much stronger and more relevant and, you know, potentially impactful plan. So I think that was helpful, and I think a lot of state peers perked up when they heard about that and you know, wanted to learn more.
Great.
That's great to hear.
Thank you, Anna.
And I'd love to.
Yeah, go ahead, Andrew.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I was muted. Yes, I'd love to find out more from you, Anna. And yeah, I'll share one example too, and I will name the state because we're really thrilled about giving them credit for what they've been doing. So Wyoming is a state that we've been talking with for some time. They're interested in learning about family resource centers, and actually one of the things that they did that working with us was we coordinated a visit for them to the neighboring state of Colorado to visit family resource centers, see what they're all about firsthand, these welcoming one-stop hubs of support for families, and meet with their peer Children's Trust Fund and other funders, and meet with the network leaders and learn all about how the work is put together. So they did that on their own, working with us, and that's exactly the kind of thing that you might propose to do during your planning year. So they did that, and then now going back to their state, recognize that although they don't directly fund them as family resource centers, that there are already existing at least 3 different family resource centers in their state. So now they're interested to explore this opportunity to then have that as part of their planning process and look at networking those centers together and bringing more centers online to their state. So that's sort of how they're building step by step.
That's great. Thank you, Andrew. Oh, go ahead.
And one more thing to mention about Wyoming is that in terms of connecting with Kaylin, is recognizing that they actually haven't been so connected with strengthening families. So that's another connect or making back to Kaylin and the strengthening families work. So it's all one big family.
Wonderful. Yes, thank you. We'll have to figure out where we can how we can get strengthening families to get Wyoming into the national network. So far, no one has typed in any questions or comments. You're all being very shy, maybe just soaking up all the information. But if you have something that you're curious about, or just an idea that you've been floating in your community or state, please type it in or raise your hand. Otherwise, we may actually wrap up a little bit early. We've got about 7 minutes left if we want to use it. But if I don't see any questions come in the next minute or so, I think we will wrap it up. I did want to... Sorry?
No, I have a comment to make as we're waiting for questions, Kaylin. This is Prashant. So please carry on.
Please do. No, please do.
Yeah, no,
I'm just talking.
Piggybacking on Anna, it's so encouraging to hear. No wonder ears perked up when you talked about this Detroit's model of getting like 200 listening sessions, if you will. And like piggybacking on what Andrew was talking about of involvement of family resource centers and we all being one big family, like I just wanted to sort of share like these 3 totally different approaches that excite these 3 different of us on the phone call. Anna at the parent level, the example, Andrews at the family resource center level, and ours at the state systems level. How nice it will be if all the states that we are working with, we can somehow pay attention to all these 3 aspects, you know. So that would be so nice to sort of really support quality improvement and having an impact on outcomes, even as we do the strategic planning at all the 3 levels, parent, program, and then of course regional state level. So this is very exciting. Let's hope that all of these opportunities come together when we really go to practice. That's from my side. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Prashant.
And this is Anna. I agree 100%, Prashant. And you know, my hat is off to the administration for this grant opportunity. I think the Office of Child Care really did a nice job in being very, very thoughtful about how they can use this to, you know, help states to really be thoughtful themselves about planning, knowing that this is, you know, system building is complex, it's kind of messy, it takes time, and, you know, they're willing to give states a year to really do some good planning, and the way they structured it to be both broad and flexible in meeting states where they are, and not making it, you know, a huge high stakes, highly competitive grant opportunity. You know, I really am excited to see what states come up with and you know, see where what kind of new innovative opportunities arise as well. So it's kind of exciting.
Yep.
Great. Well, I think we may just end on that note because it's a positive note to end on, and our audience continues to be a bit reticent. So I think everyone is soaking up this information. Oh, someone just typed something in just to prove me wrong. Lori Schluter asked how to find the grant itself. We did not include that link. Anna, could you put it in the chat box if you've got it?
Yes, I'm going to do that right now. Hold on.
Very good question, Lori. Sorry we hadn't provided that part. We kind of started at, dove right into what to do about it, not the how to find it information.
So it's only
thank you for that.
It's only letting me send it to organizers and panelists, so I'm sending it, but perhaps, Kaylin, you can plug it in to the general one.
Okay, great. I will copy that and send it to everyone.
Yeah.
I think. There we go. So there's the grant. It is on grantsolutions.gov. Anna, actually, could you say a little bit about who the entity is in each state that will actually be submitting this application in case folks want to reach out and connect with those people?
Oh, yeah. So it's up to the state to designate who the lead agency is. It does, well, it can be a state agency or a designated non-public agency. So it may not be completely clear in your state who is responsible for it. I will say that the required, just pull up the list, the required stakeholders, so this may be a way to find out who in your state may at least have a hand in it and can help you figure it out. Hold on, I need the exact language. But it is those that are responsible for the Child Care and Development Block Grant, state-funded pre-K, McVie Home Visiting, where are the rest of them? Part C, Early Intervention, Part B, Preschool for students with disabilities. And that's probably enough to get you started in trying to figure it out. So if there is another required is your state's Early Childhood Advisory Council, if your state has one up and running. So.
Okay, so a lot of variety in who might actually be the one submitting this application, but those partners should be at the table. So if you are connected with one of those partners, reach out to them and figure out where that goes in your state so that you can weigh in. All right, thanks for that question, Lori. That led us in a good direction. And now we are actually at time. So I just want to thank everyone for participating today. Many, many thanks to Anna for the work she did on a very short timeline to put together those briefs and present today. And thanks to Prashant and Andrew for sharing your information and perspectives. And I think, I hope we've given people a lot of good ideas today. We did record this webinar, so if you want to share this information with others, you'll be able to share that link so they can get to the webinar recording. You'll get a follow-up email in about an hour that has that link in it, and hopefully you downloaded the handouts so you can share those as well. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we will talk to you again soon. Have a great evening.